A 69-year-old man sitting alone in a chair. A little sketchy, producing scenes that can't be seen from an easy chair. He's an artist. His favorite piece of art is a poster from 1977.
There was this little person running toward you, and the title of the poster was, "There is no finish line."
Flip the script anytime on Mark Miller. His art imitates his life, and his life illustrates his art.
I've always just liked to run, and so I just decided I was going to just run forever.
How far is forever? Believe it or not, this story can answer that.
For many, many years when I was marathoning, I had a 9.5-mile course in New Albany. I'd run that every day.
Okay.
For years. These are for the week.
Most of us use calendars as a daily to-do list. 44 years ago, Mark started using them as his today list for running mileage.
You're not taking very many off days.
I don't take days off, except
You're supposed to take off days, the experts say.
I'm not an expert. I'm just a runner.
For the first decade, he got really competitive.
I ran 9 marathons, and they were all under 3 hours.
Wow.
Then something happened. He started caring less about his pace and more about his peace.
It's a time for meditation for me, and a time for prayer. I mean, it's a very spiritual thing for me.
The months, the miles, and the math piled up.
Just ran every day because I loved it. And at some point I realized, 59,000 miles, it was like, I'm going to live for a while, so it could be possible that I could reach 100,000.
100,000 miles. That's 50 Forrest Gump runs across the United States. 4 laps around the globe. If you ran 5 miles a day, 5 days a week.
Get ready for it, folks.
It would take you 83 years to get there.
Woo!
Mark Miller got there August 9th.
Hey! How many miles did he do?
100,000.
And the odometer keeps rolling. He doesn't have a 6:01 per mile marathon pace anymore. With a hitch in his step, he's down to 3.5 miles a day now. His math shows he averaged 6.2 miles running per day for 44 years. A 10K a day keeps the doctor away.
I've just been really fortunate and blessed.
You've never had a major injury?
No, I've got some sciatica in my back, but and it hurts when I don't run, but when I run, it goes away.
He can't remember the runners he's passed along the way, but he remembers the places he's passed. And he remembers a quote from the philosopher who inspired the 1970s running movement. It's easy to memorize when you've lived it.
For every runner who tours the world running marathons, there's 1,000 others who run to hear the leaves and listen to the rain and look to the day when it's as easy as a bird in flight. For them, running's not a test, but a therapy. Not a trial, but a reward. Not a question, but an answer.
It begins early.
Get up 4 o'clock.
Some sleep in.
Well, my alarm goes off about 4:15.
Training in the dark for the battle that lies ahead when the sun comes up.
When we sing to the Lord, we are praising Him. The Lord is to be praised in all things. It's a beautiful day out there, beautiful day for horse racing.
One religious Bible, lots of racing Bibles. Strapped on body armor, covered with polka dots.
Let's go, guys.
An army of the smallest soldiers in the world ready to conquer the giants. Thoroughbreds, thoroughly towering over riders 1/10 their weight. Not one war, 8 of them, 30 minutes apart. Barely enough time for dousing, changing, studying, racing, face painting, and weighing.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, weight is a big deal.
Good enough. Thank you, sir.
Between 116 and 118 pounds so far.
Okay, that's perfect.
But this jockey is at 123.
Yeah,
What are you gonna get to?
By 19,
119? So what are you gonna do to get down there?
just to work inside it.
In the sauna? Yeah.
The sauna gets a workout. Or they work out. Joel Rosario covers about 40 furlongs in a 40-minute treadmill run before first post.
I've ridden 32,000 races. That alone is a workout.
The only training Robbie Alvarado does is training his body not to eat.
I very seldom eat breakfast. Never ever eat lunch. Never eat lunch. And small dinners.
I don't allow them fighting.
No eating and no fighting so far, which is odd if you think about it.
These guys are competing against each other, and we're all in one room. You know, baseball, football, there's separate locker rooms, you know, so, I mean, they got to come back here and sometimes stand right next to each other in the same corner. You know?
There have been 150 jockey deaths in the United States since 1940, and the last major study of jockey injuries found 6,500 injury incidents in a 3-year span. That's something nobody here talks about.
Never. You don't go out there thinking you're going to go out there and get hurt, but sometimes things happen, which is in life.
It's something you don't even put it into your mind, because if you do, you shouldn't be going out there.
Taking a lot of dirt by little whelps.
Really?
Some dirt hitting you.
The welts from dirt flying back at 35 miles an hour are nothing compared to the plates and pins installed inside.
I've had 14 surgeries. And when I say literally from head to toe, from head to toe. I mean, from skull fractures to titanium plate in my head to screws in my sacrum, screws, plates in my legs, broken fibula, tibula. I mean, my whole body's metal almost.
Why put your body through this? What's the goal?
It is Orb in front.
One moment. One of the jockeys in this room has felt it.
Orb has won the Kentucky Derby.
You know, a lot of people would like to win the Kentucky Derby, and then it was my dream because I never thought I was going to be even in the racing in the Kentucky Derby.
But right now, Joel Rosario's in a $38,000 starter allowance. That's him on the ground, dumped at the start.
What happened there?
It was just, she stumbled coming out of the game. And looked like for a second she was staying out, but then she just went down.
The horse is uninjured, the human undaunted, and there's just enough time to get changed and do it all again. They'd gone 90 days without a workplace injury. They've gone 30 years with these workplace memories.
And he had this big black rifle, and he just blasted away.
On September 14th, 1989, the sign inside the standard gravure printing plant was supposed to spell danger, but anger erased everything.
This door opened, and this muzzle is about as big as that camera, you know, looked like when he pushed it open, and he just went pow, pow, pow.
A disgruntled worker who'd been vowing for a year to get even after being placed on disability walked in with a duffel bag full of guns. He went with the AK-47.
He shot everybody 3 times, stepped outside, turned the clip over, and came back in and started backwards.
Mike Campbell shot 6 times in a lunchroom filled with guys who had nowhere to go.
When I went down on the table, I turned my head that way, opposite of him, and hoping he wouldn't see me breathe. I was holding my breath and everything else, and I thought, what in the hell is happening? I'm going to get shot. I mean, I got shot. I have no idea why.
And I sort of curled up and laid on one side, trying to show.
Trying to play dead?
Yeah, I was trying to show up. I wasn't breathing.
Yes.
I mean, I didn't want to move a finger.
Gordon Shearer was in the lunchroom too. It's taken 30 years, but he can finally talk about it.
I just laid there, opened my eyes.
Sort of.
Floor's just covered in blood. I didn't know whether I could move my arms, legs. And then the door came open, and it started all over again. He emptied it in there again.
People were hiding under their desk, and a couple of gentlemen were hiding in the bathroom.
There was no such thing as active shooter training in 1989, no police policy. The first arriving officers rushed inside without body armor, along with TV news photographers.
You know, it's the old saying, you'd rather be a dead hero than a live coward. The thing I remember most about that day is none of us had any regard of getting injured.
We went in the door and got on the elevator and went up to the second floor, and you could smell gunpowder in the elevator.
On September 14th, Louisville learned it didn't have enough ambulances or gurneys, so police rushed victims to the hospital in their patrol cars.
At the time, why don't the EMS come? Where is EMS? But they were there. They was overwhelmed. They didn't have the personnel or the equipment to handle that kind of situation at that time.
Somehow, Gordon Shearer got out of the trapped lunchroom, hit only once by a bullet that had traveled through his dead coworker.
And I got out the side doors and to the guard shack, and the guards grabbed me and they said, sit down here. Said, you're hurt bad. I said, hell, you don't know what bad is.
When the gunman killed himself, there were 8 bodies to transport after the 12 wounded survivors. 30 years later, the Standard Gravure massacre doesn't even make the top 20 deadliest U.S. shootings list anymore. The plant's long gone, but if you turn on the TV, after what seems like monthly mass shootings now, you'll hear the same sound bites we aired 30 years ago.
It's unfortunate that people blame an object like this for a person's problems.
And I cannot understand why a country as progressive as ours would allow any ordinary citizen to own an assault rifle, which by its very description defines its purpose.
One thing has changed since then. All 3 survivors I interviewed have severe PTSD. I caught up with Jackie Miller as she was being evicted from her apartment. Shot 4 times that day, she had 7 surgeries on her leg, but what's going on in her head is the real problem.
I wake up mornings. Most people wake up and they see what's in their bedroom with pictures on the wall and the sheet and the window. I see blood. I see my blood and my insides, all the skin that got blown out of me, running down the wall at Standard Gravure.
Mike Campbell didn't start suffering from PTSD until 8 years ago.
I'll get up sometime and I'll be crazy because, can't you see that person over there? There would be people in the room walking through.
The first time Gordon Shearer left the house 2 years after the shooting, there was a birthday party at the restaurant he was at.
Somebody saw fit to start popping balloons, and with that, I was up on my feet. I turned tables and chairs over, and I run into all kinds of stuff, and I made a mess before I got out of there, but I got out of there.
He got out of the restaurant, he got out of Standard Gravure, and he got out of this interview early because I could tell how badly it was tearing him up to relive it all. The only question left is one I don't have to ask because he does all the time.
I wonder why I'm still here.